Hey everybody, welcome back to 608 Fab. It's been a minute since I've checked in, and this is going to be Aces EFI install number 2. So we're still not going to be into the legitimate Aces install stuff. This is another episode of prepping things, getting things ready to actually install the Aces Fusion EFI throttle body setup. Been 2 weeks roughly. It's been cold in Wisconsin. It's been snowing in Wisconsin. Last year, I did a little video. It's so bright out there with all that snow. There we are. We got, I don't know, 10 or 15-ish inches on. We got a good 10 the other day, and we got another 5. So far this year, we've gotten, I think, more snow possibly than we got all year last year, and it's like December 10th, maybe. Whatever today is, I don't know. But yeah, it's been a minute since I checked in. Been dealing with snow, been dealing with busy work life schedule. The wife got sick. Believe it or not, for no absolute reason, you can get a MRSA infection, which is like the world's worst infection you can ever get. So spent a week in the hospital, Thanksgiving in the hospital. She's back home. She's on the mend. That gave me a chance to come up here and burn a couple hours and get the party started. So again, Aces Killshot Fusion install video number 2, but we're still prepping the buggy. Let me show you what we got to do here. So where I left off, I took that fuel cell, that spun aluminum fuel tank out. Hopefully you can hear me. I got the furnace running in the background, keeping things warm in here. But got that out in the last video, got some of the other prep work done, and I talked about having to cut and notch this piece of rear cross member. I'm also going to have to delete a section of my aluminum floor pan. This is that 145 thousandths thick aluminum hard plate. That's what I did all the floors in the thing out of. So pretty cool material, pretty stout, tough. You can riv nut and bolt things to it, and nothing's moved or pulled out or got manipulated since I put it all in there, and I think we got 2 seasons on it now. So I'm gonna get this notched out, drill a couple holes here so I can get some radiused holes. This has the 2 holes in it. I don't have to go this far up to clear that sump. Really, that sump is probably going to end somewhere about here, but I want to get rid of that while I'm here. So let me get started on that. All right, before I drill my radius holes for the corner, one of the things you always end up with when you're trying to just grab your random 1/2-inch drill bit and you kind of eyeball it into place, right? You always end up too far in or too far out, and when you cut your line up, the radius is outboard of it or inboard of it, and then you're filing and screwing around. One of the tips I've got here is I found a socket. This is some Silver Eagle 11/32. That is a perfect 1/2 inch. So what you end up doing, let me see if I can get a little better version of it. You eyeball it, and I'm sure you could get a little better than eyeballing, but you set that right on your tape marks, okay? Then you come over here and you get your transfer punches. This is a really nice set that I stole from my father-in-law, haha. But you can buy these really cheap, and what they are is it's just a punch, but this is a machined dimension. So 7/32 fits through the little hole in that really quite well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop that in there. Obviously this is going to take more than 2 hands to do, but I'm going to set this guy where it needs to be on my tape mark, drop this guy down through that socket, punch my hole. So I used my socket, transfer punch, and I would say for eyeballing it against my tape line, I got a little bit past there, but that is honestly the best I've ever done drilling a radius hole here at the edge of cut line. So Stupid little trick I kind of came up with. And if you got a set of transfer punches, go for it. Give it a run. Maybe it'll help you out. All right, so we got that little guy cut out. I've got a blank slate here to work with. I haven't hit anything with the file yet. You can see, honestly, I feel like that's probably the closest I've ever come to just blindly drilling a radius. So without breaking out a caliper and, you know, finding the perfect center to start that 1/2 inch hole to get me my 1/4 inch radius on the edge, pretty good. I'm gonna clean that up, let it cool down, file it out smooth, and then set the tank back in there. So I've got the hole cut. I went a little step further and took the chunk out of the frame that needed to be deleted, and I'll give you a snapshot of what that looks like. So now this little bugger's sitting flat on the floor. You can see in there, I've got clearance around the sump of this thing. A little extra. I'm probably going to do a little bit of trimming right here. But at the same time, I am going to be setting this on like a 3/8 pad of rubber of some sort. Maybe a little cow mat, something like that. Just to do two things. One, insulate the tank for vibration purposes. Two, use it as a little bit of a heat barrier because I do have the muffler forward of the actual cell, but that muffler is going to warm up this aluminum plate. So I never melted any plastic bags or anything that we ever had sitting in there, but it got hot. The cooler always gets really warm, so I want to combat that. And then I'll ultimately also probably plate in the hole on the underside where you can see the tank. Probably just put in some sort of aluminum plate panel in there just to, again, insulate it from that that exhaust pipe tip. Maybe I end up redoing that. I can shove it over to the driver's side quite a bit more, but the muffler is a ways forward. So not too worried about actually melting the tank, but I do want to keep the fuel as cool as I can, which just seems to be common sense. So next time I'm here, I'm going to plate that notch out in, clean that up a little bit prettier in there, and then start bending my first piece of tube. I got the first stick sitting up here on the bender. I took some dimensions, so I'll throw those into BendTech while I'm sitting on the couch watching the Packers beat the Bears tonight, or this afternoon, and go from there. All right, everybody, I am back. Everything you saw to this point was 3 weeks ago, I think. Didn't get a chance to put that video together and post it. So this is a continuation of episode number 2. Update on my beautiful bride. She is, after a 8-day stint in the hospital, she is home. Tomorrow is going to be her last IV antibiotic treatment on this MRSA infection. Hopefully they got to do some blood tests tomorrow, but homeward stretch, baby. She is doing great. Certainly ups and downs. So I'd like to say thank you to all of our friends and family that have been over to the house helping her out and things like that. It's been great. The food that's been dropped off, it's amazing what a woman in your life does on a daily basis. Laundry, dishes, cooking, cleaning, vacuuming, supporting people like me, you know, that are just like workaholic dudes that aren't around the house as much as we probably should be. So shout out to all the brides out there that are kicking ass every day, supporting people like guys like me, or husbands kicking ass on the homestead so their wives can kick ass. So we've got a great team in our house, and I love her to death, and thank God she's on the homeward stretch. So 3 weeks later, I left off on the last clip. I said I'm going to go home and watch the Packers beat the Bears. I went home. I watched the Packers beat the Bears. However, 3 weeks later, yesterday, was a Bear-Packer game. The Bears gave it back to us. So it's fun. I could care less about football, but I get to watch the games, enjoy some laughs with family, things like that. Life is good. So on to the buggy. Came in here this morning, and I'll show you what I've done so far. I have got this guy plated in. Took a piece of 1/4 inch flat strap, got that notch all filled in. I got to clean it up and, you know, smooth it all out, make it pretty in case that fuel tank ever swells and rubs on it. Like I said, I've got plenty of clearance there. In the last video clips, you saw this bolt. This bolt is for that limit strap to prevent down travel on the axle and crash the U-joints together. So when I originally put that in, I did not take the time to drill a 1/2 inch hole on one side, big hole on the other side, pass the sleeve through it, weld it all up. So it was just clamping this 1/4 inch tubing. So while I was in there, I just dropped a sleeve in there, sleeve that bolt. All that's hotter than Haiti. Furnace is gonna kick on. I am gonna grab some dimensions of this while that's cooling down. And I got the laptop sitting up over there. I'm gonna sit down, play with Bentech, and make the first piece of tube. So then I bring it up to within a couple degrees. Just start bumping it in. So I'm shooting for 60 degrees. There's 60.2. Now as it climbs 60.3, 60.4, I need to take this about 62. There's 62. And now when this springs back, should be about 60. I think, well, this moved a little bit, but 59.5, which is exactly what the other one did. We'll turn that off and break this out, and I'll take it over to the bench and show you what I did. So what I did, I went to fire up the laptop. Don't tell my wife this because she keeps telling me I need to buy a new laptop, and well, I'm too cheap. So all I need that laptop to do is our taxes, which now we hire an accountant for that. So I don't even need it to do taxes. I used to use it for work, which was pretty much just some internet updates along the way when I was traveling. And now I use it for Bentech. So I guess I hadn't logged into Bentech soon enough, and something's expired on it, and I gotta get that updated. So I did it the old school way to make this tube. I'll show you how I did it. So because this is just a rough piece going onto a piece of square tube, it'll end up, if you visualize the bench as being the square tube, it's just going to stick off of that, or, you know, stick off like so. I can't get far enough away from it, but you'll get the visual on it. What I did, I marked out my chassis width. Chassis width is 38 inches. So then I made more or less a square, used the corner of the bench, found the center, 38 inches. That gives me 19 to the center each direction. And then I grabbed the old carpenter square and I made my, I don't know, it's not a carpenter square, it's a speed square. So I took that, put it in the point, dropped down to my 15 degrees, leaving that, actually that location up there is what's important. Drop that to 15 degrees. This is your pivot point. That gives me my 60 degrees. So the 15 mark on the 45 side gives me 60 degrees. Close enough. Threw a piece of tape down. Wasn't able to do that over here because I don't have the pivot point out there on the bench, so I just took a rough measurement from here to the corner. Well, actually from here to the corner, and moved it over to that side. Got it close enough so I could grab some dimensions and rough out my start lengths and stuff like that. So one of the things with Bentech, when you first start out, you got to program your die radius to the machine or to the computer program. I think I've got, I don't remember what I'm at, 6 1/4 radius on a 6-inch die because no dies are all the same. And what you did was you marked 4 inches from the end of a 30-inch tube and you bend your 90. And then after you bend your 90, it tells you what you got sticking out the other side. You do the same thing with a 45. You do your 4-inch mark, and then you lay this on the flat table and you can figure out what came out the other side. You put all those numbers into Bentech, but they're useful for stuff like this. So I throw the 4-inch, flush it up against the bench here, close enough on there, and I can tell you a 4-inch on a 90, I'm past, this edge would be the bumper of the truck, and this edge would be where I want the tube to land. Okay, that's too much. You slide this in. Now this is the 45. My 4-inch left me halfway there. This one put me 3/4 too far. I said, you know what? I'm just going to start with 8 inches. I can always trim off the edges. So I worked from my center line out to figure out where I needed to start the bends to get my 60 degrees, blah, blah, blah. It actually worked. Half the time I screw this up. The other half the time I win. This time I won. All right, so I got this thing sitting up on here. This is about what it's going to look like. So I try and get away from this a little bit. As of right now, I've still got a negative departure angle. So the negative departure angle is going to be the back of that tube to the back edge of the tire there. So I'm still negative. I've got a little bit more room than I need right here. I like that real estate because this is going to get a pan on it to protect anything from coming from the underside. This is going to get brackets mounted in here, fuel pump, probably some relays, things of that nature to control the fuel system. And these corners here, from about where that simple green bottle is back, is this side's going to pretty much run plumbing and fuel lines. This side's going to be just some nice random storage. So I'm thinking of redoing my tool system just a little bit. Take that box out, lower the snackle box down because the top box is all my snacks, and then this will go into here a little bit better. Create some strap points, tie something down in there. I started going to tool rolls as well. So maybe those in a waterproof bag there strapped in would be a good spot for tools. A little quicker than digging through these. So maybe I can scale this down just a little bit. And that would also help in the event I ever put a spare tire on a horizontal plane right through here. So I'm a little too wide still. My rough numbers and dimensions didn't quite work. I'm a little long, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kick each of these bends in about 5 more degrees, do the math on that, put these at 65 rather than 60. That'll just, you know, flush everything out to the frame, and then I just got to miter those off so that I can butt it right into the back of this and weld it all up. All right, boys and girls, we're going to call this a wrap for the day. I've got that first tube installed. I'll show you a photo of it. I've got the notch out all kind of blended in. Needs a little more grinder work on it. But that right there is going to become the home of the new fuel cell. So I've got plenty of real estate here at the back for fittings. I've got a fair amount of depth underneath that, so I should be able to mount my fuel pumps and things like that on some sort of tray in here. I'm going to have to extend the floor for straps, so straps come down, you know, up and over, come down and get a tab with a bolt. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to span this area. I was thinking about bringing out the aluminum floor further and coming up with all sorts of crazy ideas. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in from here I'm gonna lay a piece of 1/4-inch steel plate, bring it out about however far I feel like bringing it out, and then just break it and bend it down to weld into here. That'll give me a nice solid tab for the tank strap. That'll give me kind of a nice wing there to put the fuel tank strap or strap on, support the bottom of the tank, blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm trying to say. So I'm kind of thinking that's where I'm going to go. That's probably going to change between now and then. And actually, it's kind of already changed in my head now that I've said that, because I still need to plate this area in for protection here. So I'm going to stare at it a little bit. But fuel cell nearly installed. And once that's done, I can wrap up the rest of the rear cage work. That should be pretty quick and easy. Pop that out in a couple of nights and actually start plumbing fuel system on this thing. So work on it a little faster because things are starting to get leaned up against it. So, as always, thanks for watching. Like, share, and subscribe. Hopefully I can get another video out in another 2-3 weeks on this thing. Work's going to take over again. I got to cover the day job 24/7 over the week of New Year's, so I won't be around the house or around the shop there or here. With any luck, I'll have a cool little project to work on up at work after hours while the tow phone's not ringing, and maybe we get a cool snowstorm or something and I get to go out and drag cars out of the ditches. So again, as always, like, share, and subscribe. Do something cool in your garage. Till next time.